What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Disc Golf Nerd Plastic Podcast. And no, the podcast is not dead. I know I've been doing a lot of random live streams where I've just kind of been going live and rambling about stuff with whoever pops in there to say hello. And a couple things about that. It's very new to me. I'm kind of infatuated with it. It's fun. And I've just been doing it when I have time or mostly in the mornings before I start work and stuff. So, not taking it super seriously, so don't expect like much out of it. If you guys go back and listen to that stuff after the fact, I'll ramble about some plastic, but there's not going to be a whole lot to it. So just keep that in mind. Also, if I'm going to do more substantial live streams, my phone will not connect in my house for some reason. I've only been able to get it to connect once in my house, and I just don't know what the problem is with that. So essentially, I'm not sure I can really do a lot of like, hey, let's schedule to go live, because most of the time, if I'm going to schedule that out, I'm going to be at home and I can't get it to work. So it's driving me insane. I've been trying to get it to work for the last couple of days, this whole weekend. I just tried it again just now, so I thought it might be fun to kind of go live while I'm recording this podcast in case people want to add things or ask questions or whatever, but it didn't work out that way. And yeah, so I would like to eventually schedule it out, not like every week or whatever, but be able to give you guys notice of when I'm going to go live, so we can do Q&A, or you can just pop in and say hello and have some notice to do that. So that's the plan going forward. I'm going to have to upgrade my phone relatively soon anyway, so that should happen probably sometime this winter. With the rains coming back to Portland in the next probably month or so, there'll be less getting out and throwing and doing other stuff, and more time to hang out inside and schedule out things like that, like live hangouts and all that kind of stuff. So I think it'll be important for me to be able to do that, and we'll try to make that happen. But also, I wanted to clarify that it's not replacing the Plastic Podcast. It's a completely separate thing. I kind of, based on a couple of strange comments I've gotten, I kind of get the feeling that people think I may be like not doing the podcast or not doing other stuff anymore because I've done a bunch of live streams in the last couple weeks. Really not the case. Just because I can. It's fun to pop in and say hello to everybody, and that's really all there is to it. It's not going to replace any of my other content. It's just another thing I'm going to do, and I will continue doing it. I've been enjoying it quite a bit. If I could get a big crowd for it, or I've had times where only a few people click in, and that's awesome anyway, and we'll hang out with them and talk and stuff. But if I get, even 20, 25 people, I think that would be a lot of fun. We could do a bunch of questions and all that sort of stuff. So maybe we can make that happen sometime relatively soon. And like I said, once I get the whole technology aspect of it dialed in a little bit more, I will attempt to schedule something out so that I can let you guys know that that's coming. All right, a couple of just personal check-ins with me. The fires have somewhat gotten under control out here in the Pacific Northwest. I talked about this on a live stream the other day. That's part of why I went live, to just kind of, because I was scared and I was upset and I wanted to talk about it with some folks and just kind of throw it out there. And yeah, so basically, if you don't know, the Pacific Northwest has been just inundated with wildfires in the last couple weeks. There was one that got started by a bunch of moron kids in the Gorge, which is a really, really beautiful, beloved natural area here outside of Portland, Oregon. And they essentially were throwing fireworks into a ridiculously dry, bone dry, hot forest. And they ended up starting a fire that basically burned about 30,000 acres for that one ridiculous decision to throw one firework down the hill and go ee hee 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 for a second and film it with their iPhone. They burned down 30,000 acres of wild forests that people love and revere, hiking trails, state parks, people's homes, people's backyards, all this kind of stuff. From what I know, there haven't been any casualties and there haven't been too many homes lost, but at least some of them must have been. And it's still not under control 100% by any means. They're still not out of the woods with it. They need some sustained rain, or they need it to just kind of burn itself out eventually. But it's also severely threatened several of our beloved courses out here, including Rooster Rock State Park, which apparently was almost part of the blaze. Was very close to getting into the wildfire area, and I'm not sure how Cascade Locks and Bonneville Dam courses have been affected, but there's a good chance that there's at least some damage there, and it got dangerously close to getting near other courses like Dabney State Park. Also, there's a little course at Benson Lake that was kind of definitely in the danger zone. I don't know what happened to Benson Lake. That course could be burned out. It's just a little pitch and putt, but still, it's still a fun little putter course. And yeah, it's just a really, really terrible thing that happened. And hopefully they can get it under control very soon. And hopefully no more damage will be done to any structures or any of our beloved natural area, because it's been a really terrible situation. We are not alone in this. California, Montana, Idaho, Washington State. There's wildfires all over the place from a very, very dry summer here in the western states. So it's been rough. So with that being said, not a whole lot going on with me. There was about a week or so stretch there where going outside and doing anything was not part of the plan, because there was just a giant cloud of smoke and haze everywhere in Oregon and Portland. It was actually snowing ash in Portland, to the point where cars were getting covered with ash from the wildfires and the smoke. So there was no like, hey, let me go out and throw some discs. That was not happening. We were holed up inside, kind of struggling to breathe with the air conditioning on, and it was really ugly. So I'm a little bit behind on my testing. I have a few discs I'm going to hopefully get out and test today, and hopefully be able to keep the ball rolling Fresh Plastic Friday. I pulled the Opto Caltrop out of the bag, posted a quick review of that just to keep the ball rolling last week. So that's why, if you're like, wait, why would he review this one when he's got all this other stuff to review? That's why, because I wasn't ready to test, or I wasn't ready to review anything else. Just got a little bit more testing to do on a few different things, and we'll keep the ball rolling with that. Final update with me before I get into the topics for this show, is that I still have some Disc Golf Nerd stamped custom disc left. Sorry if I'm getting to become like a broken record with this. These last like 10 or so just not moving, so I'm just figuring I'd throw it out there again just in case anybody's interested. I got medium harps for $15, including shipping. I got 4 of those left. They're really got a really nice feel in the hand. 2 red, 2 white, and then I have EMAC Truths for 16 shipped, and also I have a couple of Sparkle Opto compasses, or maybe even one Sparkle Opto compass left, also for $16 shipped. Somebody had popped into a live stream and asked if I had any Wardens left for sale, and I can't remember the name of the person. I tried to track them down on Facebook, and trying to like search my subscriber base is really hard because there's like thousands of people in there, so it's difficult to like find individual users in there. And then yeah, so I couldn't figure out how to get in touch with this person, because I realized I do have a couple. Like I have a wall hanger one here that I was just gonna keep as a memento, but I would sell it if you somebody really wants one of those Wardens. I have basically one left that I could sell. So get in touch with me if you're interested in that. As much as I like having them, and I have a few in my bag and in my collection, and in a couple of backups for throwing and stuff, I'd rather you guys have them than it just being a wall hanger for me kind of thing. So let me know if you're the person. I think it was Ryan Burgess or something like that. If you're interested in a Warden, I think I have one for you. Get in touch with me. All right, without further ado, the topic for this episode is 10 things that have changed in the world of disc golf since I became a player, became involved in the game. So I've been playing for probably around 11 years or so. Really haven't been super serious about it for the first couple years. I played my first round, and then I went about a year without playing again. But that next summer after that, the next winter after that, I played my first round in late September, when I first moved to Portland, Oregon. Then I got a couple of discs for Christmas from my wife that year. The next summer, I think I played maybe one time. But that next winter after that, I believe, is when I actually really got into it. Me and my buddy started playing a lot, and we really started to get hooked on the game. That's when I really started to love it. Start collecting some discs, and I believe the YouTube channel started not too long after that, where I posted my first in the bag video, and then a couple of beginner tip type videos to try to help people out. Some of those are still available. You can actually find my first ever video. It says like Disc Golf Nerd first video or something like that. It's my first in the bag. It's pretty funny to go back and watch that and put it up next to my newest in the bag. Say it's kind of interesting to see the progression. Not only in the stuff that I was throwing, even though I think there's soft magnets in every Disc Golf Nerd in the bag I've ever posted, but it's definitely different. Other than that, everything else is different. And then just my ability to speak, still not great, but man, it's definitely come a long way at least. But in that time, many things have changed, and I thought it'd be interesting to kind of go over some of the differences for maybe some of the newer folks into the game who don't realize that all this stuff hasn't been the way some of this stuff is very new. And let's just get into it. Just talk about how the game's changed since I started. I thought it'd be a fun topic. So I got a top 10 list. There's no particular order. I'm just going to walk through these. Basically, all right, backpack bags. Okay, so nowadays we're starting to get into the cart era, where a lot of people are using disc golf carts of various makes and manufacturers. I actually have a prototype of a disc golf cart that I will begin testing today. I'm super stoked about having the ability to cart around my plastic and not have to actually carry it with me out there on the course. It's going to be really great for certain courses, maybe certain really steep wooded courses. I'll probably still carry my bag, but I'm looking to switch to the cart and just save myself the energy and the effort of having all that weight on my back while I'm out there throwing. I feel like it'll keep me a little fresher to have the weight in a cart and not on my back, not bending over to sling it over my shoulder and off and on and off and on the whole round. I think it might actually help a little bit. And I think Ricky actually mentioned that recently with his cart, that he really likes the fact that he's not carrying that extra weight. It saves you that energy. I think it makes all the sense in the world. But what you guys probably don't realize if you're new to the game is that backpack bags were not always a thing. If you see the coverage from the Utah Open, watch Josh Anthon. You see that big giant backpack that he has, or bag that he has, where it has the backpack straps, and then it has a big, just like rectangular shaped bag that hangs kind of down like over his rear end. That was the standard bag when I first started playing, was those kind of like bags, either a shoulder bag or you could get the backpack straps, but it wasn't an actual backpack. The problem with those bags is that they're extremely uncomfortable to carry around. All the weight is on your lower back, and it's just awful. I don't know why Josh hasn't switched to something else. For one, I would say his bag is giant and he's got a ton of plastic in that thing, so maybe he needs a little bit more plastic storage than most backpacks offer. But ever since I upgraded to my Gateway backpack bag, there's no going back to anything other than a backpack at this point. Like, I don't even understand why companies continue to make other types of bags, probably just for old school players that are into that sort of thing. But the backpack is where it's at. It helps you distribute the weight, and it's way more comfortable. But it wasn't always a thing. I believe Grip Equipment was probably the first backpack, and I remember when those came out. I think they did a Kickstarter. Shout out to my buddy Andy. I believe he still has one of the original Kickstarter grip bags that he uses, still in great shape. He was part of that, and he's still rocking it today, I believe. And yeah, it's really cool to see how that's changed over the years. And I really think Josh Anton needs to upgrade to a new bag. I mean, the thing is just ridiculous. The funniest bag ever that I still remember is Steve Rico's old bag. Was like twice the size of the one that Josh is carrying. It used to like wrap around his whole body. It was insane. Same with Dave Feldberg. Dave Feldberg used to have a giant, ridiculous bag that he'd make his caddies carry around that just had like 40 discs in it. It was insane. It's hilarious though. I remember I was at the Beaver State Fling watching Dave lug that thing around. Or actually, he never carried the damn thing. It was always a caddy. But yeah, it's just really funny to see how much plastic he used to carry. But backpack bags, definitely a new thing, and they're here to stay. There's no going back. I think carts are probably going to become more and more popular. But I think having the ability to throw your disc in a backpack is pretty sweet. The coverage. So you guys, if you're a new player and you're watching the big events and you're watching Jomez and Central Coast and the other great videographer teams, Smashbox Live and all that great stuff, don't take it for granted, because we have not always had that. When I first got into disc golf, there was only a couple of people doing tournament coverage. It was like Disc Golf Monthly was covering certain events in the Northeast, like Pennsylvania, New Jersey area, maybe into Delaware and stuff like that. And that was about it. There was also LCGM8 was doing tournament coverage out of Europe. I used to watch those a lot. That he was one of my favorite. Then shout out to Marty McGee, who was I still have a tremendous amount of respect for and still love his content. Um, he came out with McFly So High, and when McFly So High came out, just so you guys don't, I feel like a lot of people don't understand this. He was the best. Like he was absolutely the best out there. He was doing all the best coverage. It was beautiful footage. He had two cameras a lot of the times, but even if he had one, he would always track most of the shot. Really, really crisp, beautiful footage with great sound. You could hear the players talk. You could hear the sound of nature and the chains and everything. I really like and still like now. And he was the one I think he kind of started like all the, you know, in between shot graphics. He had the McFly-in where he would come in from Google Earth and down to the course and a satellite image and stuff. He kind of pioneered a lot of that kind of stuff, and he was the best in the business for quite a while there. Then Central Coast has come a long way. They've been around for a little while now too, and Jomez is just absolutely killing it these days. I don't think there's much debate that Jomez is putting out the best product there, out there at this point. I really like what they're doing, but it hasn't always been like that, guys. So support those people, watch the videos, give them likes, subscribe, and all that kind of good stuff. If they have fundraisers and you like them, go out and support them. I should really get myself a Jomez disc or a hat or something like that soon. Maybe I'll make that happen relatively soon. But yeah, the coverage has been just growing by leaps and bounds, and it's really amazing to see. And all the support from the players and the fans of the game who get out there and subscribe and give them the views and let the channels grow and help the channels grow makes a big difference in the ability to continue doing it, and it also helps grow our game tremendously. It helps grow our players and their personal profile and all that kind of good stuff. Also, Smashbox, the live coverage is so much better than it ever was. Back in the day, we had Disc Golf Planet, which was always really, really choppy. They had some kind of weird way that you'd go watch it. It wasn't on YouTube. It was like on another website, and the stream often didn't work for me, and it was just always kind of a mess. And Smashbox makes it so easy nowadays. I just turn on my Roku or a Google Chromecast and just throw it on the TV, and that's it. You're watching golf. It's all it takes, and I think they're doing a tremendous job, and I think they get better all the time. Next one, golf courses. I'm sure this kind of thing happened back in the day, but it's something that seems like it's much more prevalent nowadays to see disc golf being played on a traditional golf course that is kind of reimagined as a disc golf course. It's an interesting concept. It definitely makes all the sense in the world, especially when traditional golf is kind of on the decline and has been for a while now. And a lot of those courses cannot sustain themselves. They kind of popped up in the Tiger boom when everybody was really interested in golf for some reason, and now a lot of them just can't sustain because they don't have that many players that want to go out and play the courses, or they were never that good to begin with, so they didn't build a following. But now we have those big open tracts of land that can be converted into disc golf courses permanently, or are just being utilized for specific events out there on the golf course. Some people do it really well. Some people, I'm kind of not that into it, where it's just a lot of big open hyzer shot, putt, kind of golf that I don't think is all that interesting. I don't really like when they put the basket on like a tiny little island in between a million bunkers and they're all OB. That seems kind of just whatever to me, but certain layouts do a good job with it. I think the Utah Open one looked pretty good, although they used the bunkers a lot in that. I thought they were still kind of fair, and they give you fair landing zones and all that kind of stuff. But it's just an interesting thing that's kind of happened and will continue to happen, I imagine. The new tours. New tours is definitely a new thing as well. When I first started getting into disc golf, in terms of being a fan, you had the disc golf, the PDGA National Tour. That was basically it. There were majors as well, and then there was the national tour, and that was the end of it. Then you saw on this, I think the same year, the Disc Golf World Tour and the Disc Golf Pro Tour were both announced, and they really changed the game. I think Disc Golf Pro Tour is the one that I'm much more interested in. I think it's a true tour. I believe the Disc Golf World Tour is not even really a tour. It's just a series of events that are all interconnected based on the fact that Innova gets to run them for some reason. That's basically it. I mean, I don't really see how that's a tour. If you have multiple events that are months apart and all different areas of the world, I don't see that being a tour. The Disc Golf Pro Tour is something you can get on and start and play one event, and you can work your way across and play all the other ones. That to me makes it a tour. I understand the World Tour thing, that they want to move it around, and I'm into it for the most part. There's definitely some things about it that I'm not a fan of at all, some of which I probably touched on here and will do in the future. But the Disc Golf Pro Tour for me and the National Tour are my two favorites. And I think the Disc Golf Pro Tour is going to continue to grow. It's bringing in the live coverage of the women, spliced into the middle of the men's Pro Open coverage. The festival, the flying discs, all the transparency, all the bringing out Jomez and Central Coast for a lot of the events. I just think they're doing a great job, and it feels like a tour when you watch it and you see that like the advertising walls and the raised basket tubes and stuff. It's a Disc Golf Pro Tour event, and they're doing a good job of like kind of stamping it in a way of so that that that's what it is. And I think they're doing a really good job, and I think the sky's the limit for the Disc Golf Pro Tour. And after only 2 years, I think it's already grown a lot, and I'm excited to see where it goes for sure. I think it's great. All right, let's see. Overmolds. Overmolds is also a new thing. Not that new at this point. MVP's been around for a bit, and there were other companies that did overmolds before MVP, from what I understand. It wasn't like they pioneered it. They definitely took it to a new level, and I respect that. But a couple people, take offense to Latitude starting their overmolds and stuff. Like, no one else should be allowed to do it because MVP does it. I don't understand that thinking, especially in disc golf. Like, if you do something that works well in disc golf, like the grip bag came out and it was an amazing backpack disc golf bag, people are going to do the same thing. If it's successful, people are going to do the same thing. That's how capitalism works. That's how these products get pushed forward. That's how you have competition, and the competition helps push the game and the manufacturing to new levels. And I have no problem with it whatsoever. In fact, I think the Gobi is one of my favorite discs that's been released in the last couple years. The thing is amazing. I just bought another one. The Latitude 64 Gobi Overmold mid-range is just tremendous disc. I love it. Obviously, Innova also has the Nova, which has been extremely popular. Paul Macbeth has thrown that thing on just a laser beam all over the world. And you also have the Atlas from Innova. But yeah, overmolds weren't always a thing, and they're still relatively new. But I think they definitely have some good flying discs with that overmold there. So I think it's interesting to see where else you could take it. Where else might disc technology go? It's hard to say, I guess. Prodigy and DD changeover. Okay, this is an interesting one that I'm not sure a lot of you guys know about. But when I first started playing, you had Discraft, you had Innova. That was pretty much it. Latitude 64 may have been around at that point, but they weren't very well known. They were a smaller company, and were mostly catering to Sweden, Finland, and the Scandinavian region where they hail from. Then you had Discraft and Innova. You had Gateway, had putters, and they had some other molds, but I didn't really know anybody that threw anything other than like Wizards and stuff, Magics maybe from Gateway. And then you finally had some changes occur. I'm not sure exactly when the year this happened was. I should have looked this up before I started recording, but it's always something you guys could Google and figure out. It's not that hard. Essentially, what happened was Dynamic Discs became a manufacturer. Before that, they were a apparel company, more or less. They would sponsor people, and you'd get Dynamic Discs shirts and stuff, and that was about it. They used to actually stamp other companies' plastic. They'd have you'd get a DD stamp on a T-Bird or a Buzz or whatever. I used to have a DD stamped Flex Surge in my bag for a little while. So they did that, and then they decided they were going to actually release their own line of discs. Now they're going to do it underneath the Latitude 64 umbrella, because Latitude 64 molds their discs alongside with Westside, which kind of became the dubbed as the trilogy by fans and stuff, to kind of bring those three together, knowing that they are all manufactured by Latitude 64. When that occurred, basically players had to make a choice. Are you going to continue throwing the manufacturer that you're already throwing, whether it was Discraft or Innova or Gateway or whoever, or are you going to continue to be on Team Dynamic Discs, but now you have to only throw Dynamic Discs, Westside, or Latitude 64? So a lot of the players, including Eric McCabe, Patrick Blazik, Paige Pierce, Jeremy Coling, Cale LaVisca, they were all on Team Discraft at the time. And then you had Paul Macbeth and Will Schustrick, Ricky Wysocki, and a bunch of other players that were on Team Innova at that time. Now, at the same time, kind of coincidentally, Prodigy discs came out, and they had this new thing where they were going to try to make the players part of the company, where they kind of own shares, or I'm not exactly sure the financial ins and outs and how the whole thing worked, but Paul Ulibarri, I believe, was also an Innova player at that time, so a bunch of these players went and started Prodigy, including Ricky, including Paige, Katrina Allen, Ulibarri, Big Germ, I believe, was part of that initial switch. Cale LaVisca, who's still with them. They went and switched away from their manufacturers and became Prodigy disc players. Then, from there, you had Eric McCabe and Pat Blazik and who am I forgetting here? Ron Converse, I believe. Ron Converse was a Discraft player, I think. I could be wrong on that. I think so, though. I really do. And then a few other players decided to become part of Team Dynamic Discs. And when that whole changeover happened, it was a big deal. I remember it being really crazy. Like, wow, there's two new manufacturers out here that are, Prodigy was brand new. They're going to bring out a whole new line of discs, and then same thing with Dynamic Discs. They're going to bring out their line, but players going and switching to them can actually use the already established Latitude 64 line. So it's just a very interesting time in those days, and there was a huge shift. Paul Macbeth decided he was going to stay with Innova, and it may have been a tremendous move for him that he did that, because he became their guy. They put so much behind him. They pushed him so much that now he makes a tremendous living just off of his signature discs and stuff. And obviously Paul, being arguably the greatest player to ever play, has a ton to do with that. It's not just because he decided to stay with Innova, but it is a fascinating time in disc golf's history, and it was a really interesting time to kind of be a part of. I didn't have much to do with any of it. Obviously, I was just as a fan in those days, but yeah, really interesting. It was an interesting switch that happened. I believe most people are pretty happy with the way things turned out. Now, a lot of players have moved on from Prodigy, including Ricky, who went to Latitude 64, of course. Big Germ is now on Team Innova, and which he kind of feels is like a homecoming for him. You have Paige, who also went to Dynamic Discs, which she also feels like was kind of going home. I wonder, and I don't think anyone's ever really asked this to Paige before in an interview, but I wonder, does she regret not just going straight to Dynamic Discs in the first place? I would imagine she would say yes. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, and it's kind of none of my business in terms of the business and all that kind of stuff, and how the contracts work with Prodigy, because obviously we still have Cale LaVisca, Schustrick, Paul Ulibarri, Katrina Allen, all of which who are still very much into Prodigy and still throwing all of it and promoting the brands, and throwing them very well, and they make great plastic types and good molds, and they have a big line at this point and all that stuff. I believe Sarah Hokum was also Discraft and went to Prodigy during this time. But yeah, it was an interesting phase in disc golf's history, and it was cool to be a part of it for sure. Let's see. What else is next? Just overall growth is definitely one of them. just you're just seeing the game continue to grow. Now that Latitude 64 and Dynamic Discs have their discs in big box retailers like Sportsman's Warehouse. If I go in there, I look through the stack. They have some cool discs there, trilogy stuff, and it's pretty cool to see. They have Ranger bags in stock there, and Sniper bags, and all that kind of good stuff. The cool like Marvel Dynamaxes and stuff. They're there because for a while there was basically nothing but Innova in the big box stores. For the most part, it still is, but still, you just see it growing a lot. The amount of people I run into where I mention disc golf and they actually at least know what it is, or oh, I've heard of that, or oh, I've played that once, or that's really cool, or oh, I've seen those baskets at the park, or any of that kind of stuff, has just grown a lot. And it's definitely noticeable the amount of people that do know about the game and that do play it. And then now, if I post something on my personal Facebook, more people know about it. There's disc golf courses on Long Island, New York, where there were none when I moved away to here to Portland. New courses are going in all the time. The coverage channels are blowing up. I continue to grow slowly here on my channel, and more people pop in and check out my stuff. It's just amazing. It really has grown a lot, and it's thanks to all the players that get into it and really try to push it and love the game that it helps to make it grow. And I think more and more people are catching on that it's basically essentially it gives you the mental aspects of golf and all the fun of frisbees and flying discs. Plus, it's just extremely accessible. So it's just got so many good things going for it. It's exciting. It translates like if you're a player who can throw relatively far, and you have some friends or something that would just watch you throw, I think they would be amazed to see it. I love just being out at the park and watching like little kids watch me throw. And I don't even throw very far, but it still looks super far to them to see me throw a frisbee to that level that they've never seen before. And I think that just that alone translates to people. And it's like, wow, man, do you see how far this guy just threw that thing? And I always think like, man, if they could only see Dion Arlen or Simon Lazat or any of these other people throw, or not even just any basic pro that could throw 400, I mean, they would just be blown away. By like a 450-foot throw. It's just tremendous. When I tell my dad about disc golf and stuff, and he's like, wait, how far do they throw? I'm like, well, some of these guys can throw 550, 600 feet. And he's like, six? It's like, that's 2 football fields. That's insane. I'm like, yeah, well, they can do it. David Wiggins and Dion Arlen and those guys have thrown 600 in distance competitions before. It's a doable thing. It's insane. But yeah, it's pretty wild to think about. And honestly, this is a little side tangent. Something I've been considering trying to do, and maybe I'll try to get it to happen sometime this fall or winter. I just don't know where to start with it. I think it would be a really cool thing to try to grow the game. Would be to get some players that throw pretty far and just do a tour where you go around the elementary schools, you explain about the game, you have some baskets, you let the kids do a ring of fire, you throw some putts, and then you just have some big throwers just bomb some shots in a big open field or like a city park. I think as little kids, and really anybody that sees somebody throw a disc 500 feet or 450 or something, would just be amazed. And I think that could really go a long way to kids being interested and wanting to learn how to play, just to see how far it can go, because that's exciting to kids. As much as making putts and hitting the chains and stuff is probably real cool for kids as well. Just seeing a big shot like that, I think, would really stick out in their minds. And I'm gonna try to hopefully maybe get that event together eventually. I'm busy with a lot of other stuff, but something that I think would be fun. All right. Let's go to a slightly negative one. Discraft and their complete drop off of any media and YouTube content whatsoever. When I first started, Discraft was a big deal for me because they had the Discraft clinic videos. They had one on putting, jump putting, anhyzers, distance, adding distance, and all that kind of stuff. And they were amazing. It was a big deal for me to be able to watch those videos. I've watched all of them a million times. Also, player in the bag videos. Like, I've watched Eric McCabe's old Discraft in the bag videos so many times. just to watch him throw and have him talk about plastic. And so many times I've been inspired to buy a disc from one of those videos because, I bought a Meteor because Eric McCabe recommended it for turnovers and stuff, and watching him throw it and all that kind of stuff. The Buzz, there was so much hype about the Buzz on the Discraft channel that made me want to try one. It's an amazing disc. The Discraft putting clinic videos. Just talk about the Banger GT and the Magnet, both of which I ended up using based on those videos. And it was a big deal. And now we see basically dynamic discs, and Bobby has taken over that whole vibe where he puts out all this other content, like the Disc Golf Answer Man, like the travel blogs, like the Is This Disc Right For You, the Nighttime at the Warehouse, or whatever he calls it, After Hours at the Warehouse. And all that content, it brings people in and makes them interested in your product. And it just blows my mind that Discraft has let it drop to the point that they have, where literally the most current in the bag video that Discraft has for their team member is the Eric McCabe video I'm talking about. Eric McCabe hasn't even been on the team in forever, it seems like. I mean, seems like he's been pushing the truth and been on Team DD now for so long. It's just, I can't even believe that that's the most up-to-date bag in the bag video. Then you have Val Jenkins and this really high-profile move where Val is like, enough, moves away from Innova and goes over to Discraft, right? Nothing. Not one video do they have of Val saying, these are the discs that I'm throwing. Here's Val's new in the bag. Here's Val testing out her new molds and stuff. Or the Val Jenkins signature Thrasher came out on the market. Do they have not one video of Val throwing the thing, or just even showing it to you, doing a boring disc golf nerd style video of, here's my Thrasher and this is what I love this disc for these shots, or nothing. And I can't wrap my head around it. It just blows my mind that they just don't care. I don't know if they just don't care. If I was a player on Team Discraft, I would be infuriated by the complete lack of content they put out there. It just blows my mind. No new in the bags from Michael Johansson. No in the bag from Austin Turner that I know of. Like, do they have any of that content? Is it out there? I haven't seen it. If they have it, it's not on the Discraft website. That's for damn sure, because I'll go there and look at it, and they got nothing. One of the most current videos they have on there is Dion Arlen doing a great distance tip clinic from several years ago. It's just nothing. I literally have more YouTube content about Discraft plastic than they do. Let that sink in for a second. I'm not even a pro player. I have far more videos about Discraft discs than Discraft does. That's insane to me. I don't understand it. I think, and not to just throw Discraft under the bus, basically every single manufacturer is lacking in this area as far as I'm concerned. Every single one of them should have somebody operating in a similar form to Bobby, where they're out there showcasing the content. I think Legacy actually does a really great job of it, where they actually go out there and they do their own kind of field test demos of upcoming molds and stuff, and spread the word about it. And Rico will rip some of them in a big field, and they'll zoom in and show you the flights. How hard is it to think of that makes sense? Like, Innova occasionally does that, but then they don't. They're at least really good about player in the bags. That's good. UC did a bunch of work with Discmania and demoing their discs, and also they had the whole Deep in the Game clinic series and stuff. That was tremendous. But seriously, if anybody who listens to this is a fan of Discraft, and you throw their discs, if you're by some miracle a pro player on Team Discraft hears this, why are you not demanding that they put out more content to promote you guys? Austin Turner is, the kid throws a mile. He's got all the talent, all the skill, and no content. Not one in the bag. Not one. Here's Austin throwing his favorite disc. Tim Barham, same thing. No in the bag from Tim. No. Hey, here's him throwing his signature disc. You just get nothing. Nate Doss occasionally posts his in the bag video, It's been the same bag for the last 10 years. I mean, he adds like one disc every 5 years. He'll add a disc maybe. Um, but he doesn't even, it's not even on the Discraft website, on the Discraft page. It's on a separate page. So, end rant with that. I can't wrap my head around it. It hurts my feelings as a fan of Discraft that they are just so out of touch with social media. I mean, they post stuff on Instagram or Facebook like pictures. You know, that's about all you're getting from them. But how they can't say, hey, let's get a guy with a camcorder to go out there and do some in the bags for MJ and for Austin Turner and for Val. I mean, Val Jenkins is on your team now. You have no content about this. This is a big deal that you guys picked up Val Jenkins in this big high profile move and you completely let it fall apart. You know, everybody was interested in that Val was going to go over there and get a signature disc as she deserves, as was the main reason why she left Innova in the first place after being there for so long. You don't post a video of her with the Thrasher when you release it? Wow. Okay. Enough of that. Let's see. The rise of Macbeth and Ricky. Believe it or not, Paul Macbeth was not always a household name. He was not the top player in the world. When I first saw Paul, he hadn't won a whole lot in general. And he came out and won the Beaver State Fling. One of the first years I went to it, he won. And he played great, and it's amazing to watch. He wasn't a big deal back then by any means. He was kind of an up-and-coming player at the time. Felt like I didn't know him very well. I felt like a lot of the other guys that I saw out there were more famous than him. He was kind of this younger guy who's just coming up and starting to really crush it. And then eventually he took over the world and then kind of pinnacled so far, at least in 2015 when he won all the majors, swept the majors, won the worlds and all that stuff. And now you've seen in the last couple years Ricky kind of rise to some level of dominance as well. He's already wrapped up the Disc Golf Pro Tour Point Series. He's now the back-to-back world champion, and he's right there in the mix. And I think both of them playing to their full potential, who's better? It's hard to say. I feel like there's a lot of luck and there's a coin toss involved there. But we've seen Paul go out there and smash the field. And we've seen Ricky do it. I mean, Ricky had damn near had a victory lap for the final round of Worlds. I mean, he ended up just strolling it home both times, where no one was even that close. So who's the best player in the world right now? I lean towards Ricky, but I'm biased because he's my favorite. But just know that it wasn't always the case where we've had these two destroyers, you know, just dominating the rest of the field and winning the majority of the events between one of the two of them that they're at. You know, it's just tremendous to see the level that they're playing at. But it wasn't always the case. You know, it was interesting to see it kind of grow to where it is now. And Paul becomes so successful and so popular, so well known. And now Ricky is coming up behind him. And I feel like people are really starting to get turned on to Ricky and understand that he is a cool guy. He's a really, really nice guy. And he's an amazing player. And he's just a great positive force in our sport where even at Ledgestone, when he just gets completely robbed of thousands of dollars by the baskets, and they're really poor quality baskets that they were using, you know, he didn't go out there and put out a big post kicking and screaming and, hey, you guys owe me $1,000 for these garbage baskets, and if you had Mach X's, I would have made thousands more dollars on the weekend. Or any of that stuff, you know. He goes out there and he says, I love the course, and congrats to Josh, and total pro. Absolute pro, stud. Ricky's a great ambassador for the game. I think he'll continue to be successful, and we have lots of other up-and-coming players as well. Simon Lazat's becoming incredibly popular. Eagle McMahon's putting himself out there with the vlogs, and I think that'll translate to a lot of fans. That it already has, and I think he'll continue to grow and become a positive force for disc golf, and so many other players that Eric McCabe and the Disc Golf Answer Man and all this, and being a part of all the content that Bobby's been promoting. He's done a tremendous amount to grow the sport and grow the game. But Macbeth, not always the best player in the world, and I'm not even exactly sure who was top ranked player before him. Yeah, I'm really not even sure. It could have been. I think Will Schustrick was the number one ranked player at one time, and maybe Nico was Nico the highest rated player at one point. He was up there for sure. I mean, I remember the year before. I think the year before Paul won his first Beaver State Fling, Ken Climo won it in the Open Division. That's kind of how far back we're talking here. All right, and finally, the number 10 out of the 10 things that have changed since I've gotten involved in the sport of disc golf is podcasting. You got Smashbox, you got Dixon Jowers has his show now, Disc Golf Answer Man. You may actually be listening to a disc golf podcast right now. Also, Final Round Radio, which I can't say I've actually listened to be honest, but I've heard good things about at least. And also, Ulti World's podcast is pretty solid. I listen to them most weeks. And all that stuff definitely can't hurt to help grow the game as well. Podcasting in general has come around, and it's nice to see Discraft adopt it as an art form, because I think it's a great way to, or not Discraft, damn it, got Discraft on the brain. It's nice to see Disc Golf adopt podcasting as an art form and as a tool to help try to grow our game. Podcasting has been tremendous in spreading information, bringing people together, and I think it's awesome that we utilize it here in the world of disc golf. Speaking of which, thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Disc Golf Nerd Plastic Podcast. I really appreciate all of you people, all of your support of my channel over the years. This means a lot to me. I would not continue to do this thing without you guys watching the videos and the likes and the subscribes and the positive feedback on the comments. Means a lot to me for sure. Much love to everybody out there. Hopefully I have some new plastic to test and review for you guys very soon. I got plenty of stuff still in the testing queue. Hopefully I can finish it up testing, I should say, today, and get some more reviews out for you guys very soon. If you have any ideas for concepts or topics that you'd like me to touch on the Disc Golf Nerd Plastic Podcast, if you have any questions for me I might be able to answer on the show, or if you have any beginner tip suggestion videos I might be able to make, feel free to leave those in the comments or hit me up, discraftandinova@gmail.com, with an email if you ever want anything. If you ever have anything to ask me or tell me about or whatever, feel free to get in touch with me. You can also find me on Facebook via personal message on the Disc Golf Nerd page. Check me out on Instagram, all that kind of good stuff. Much love to everybody out there. I will check you all very soon. Cheers.